Welcome back to another episode of the Boxing Podcast. With me is Chats, as always. We're here to recap Canelo's defeat of Munguia. He won a unanimous decision in Vegas with a clear fourth-round knockdown of Munguia. Later in the show, we'll talk about the upcoming undisputed heavyweight matchup between Fury and Usyk. But first of all, let's just jump right into Canelo and Munguia. My thoughts on this fight. Just jumping right out, it was a clear win for Canelo. I don't think that's disputed, really. I saw a couple people say it was kind of close, but I really don't think so. I think it was pretty one-sided, especially with the knockdown. I don't think Munguia was really in it. I think he threw a little bit, but most of it just kind of tapped off Canelo. And really, my final thoughts on it is Canelo kind of took it easy after he got the knockdown. I've seen a Canelo against some hurt opponents really come at them, like Kovalev, like Kirkland, and I just didn't see that Canelo this time around. And I think he should have finished Munguia. I think it would have silenced a lot of critics. But I think the reason he didn't is because he doesn't want to make a Mexican fighter look really bad. He didn't want to kind of give Munguia that backlash of being stopped like that viciously. So I think he allowed Munguia to kind of look like a warrior in this fight. That's really my thoughts. I know that's kind of harsh, and I don't mean to be harsh on Munguia, but I do think that Canelo is just on another level. I think there are layers to this game, and I think Canelo has everything there. I think he's a once-in-a-generational great, and I think that he showed some mercy to Munguia. Chats, I'm curious what you thought of this fight.
Yeah, I agree. I thought Canelo probably could have finished off the fight. I think Canelo looked good. I think Munguia, like you said, a lot of people were kind of saying, well, maybe he's getting some of these rounds. I didn't think so. I thought it was a clear Canelo decision. I mean, you are a little harsh with the go ahead and stop him. You know, Munguia he is a warrior, and he was throwing. He came out active, and he landed some shots on Canelo. Like you said, I think most of the shots that were thrown and these big shots that were being thrown were missing or hitting the gloves of Canelo. But you got to give respects to Canelo. You know, even though he didn't get the stoppage where I think a lot of people thought he could have, he looked great. He got the knockdown early, and he really just coasted to a win here. You could tell Canelo was very prepared for this fight, and I think that's a really good sight to see leading up to a big fight that he should get in September.
Yeah, I just thought that at the end of the day, Canelo's defense was the story of this fight. I think even when Munguia had his flurries of activity, when he looked really good, like he was really active, it was mostly bouncing off the hands of Canelo, or Canelo's head was just not there. His head movement, I mean, go back and look at some of the fights with Golovkin and just look at his head movement. I mean, this guy has it all. Obviously, the defense is there. And I don't think Munguia has the ability yet to catch up with such an experienced fighter, such a defensive style, such a great counter puncher. And I think that Canelo could have made Jaime Munguia look really, really, really bad that night and decided not to. That's kind of what it comes down to. And If it's harsh, oh well. Canelo is I think the GOAT of this generation. Like, I don't think there's anybody better than Canelo, and I think that unless you're fighting Benavidez, you shouldn't show slack. You shouldn't get off the gas pedal as Canelo. I think he can if he wants to, but he shouldn't, because that's what's going to get him those critics now that are going to say, oh, you're scared of Benavidez, you'll never fight Benavidez, blah, blah, blah about Benavidez, which I don't think that's the case. I think that if they were to fight today, I think Canelo would beat Benavidez very decisively. But Benavidez is moving up to 175 and eyeing a showdown with Bivol and Beterbiev. We'll get back to that. What do you think? If Benavidez was to fight Canelo today, how do you see that fight going?
I think that you're insane for saying Canelo would win decisively. I also think that you're insane for saying Canelo is not scared of Benavidez. I think it's starting to show Canelo is scared of Benavidez, or there's something that he sees in Benavidez that he doesn't like for himself. And we can disagree on this. We disagree on it all the time. Anytime you come over to the house, there's something about Benavidez that Canelo doesn't want, because Canelo's made all the fights. You're talking about the Plant fight, we're talking about the Billy Joe fight. He made those fights because he was going to win those fights. He won those fights easily. He can make the Benavidez fight. He's not making the Benavidez fight. And that's where I have the issue. And if they fought today, I think that we're looking at a fight that Canelo possibly loses. I don't want to go out and say that Benavidez wins this fight for sure, because you can never count out Canelo, but Canelo does not win that fight decisively. Benavidez is going to catch him. Sure, Munguia is probably more technically sound than Benavidez, but Benavidez is going to catch Canelo. He's going to hit him hard. He's going to train hard. I don't think that you can say it's a decisive win for Canelo. I think that is such an unfair statement.
There's absolutely no way you can tell me Canelo's afraid of David Benavidez. A cokehead, I'm sorry to be harsh, but let's be real. A cokehead who could have had the Canelo fight before had he not tested positive for cocaine. He could have had that fight before. You're crazy for thinking Canelo is scared of this guy when he doesn't have the size of a Bivol or a Kovalev, two huge guys that Canelo stepped up to fight for less money. You're talking about a Canelo who stepped up and fought Triple G, and I think a lot of people discredit this. They seem to think this is a past Canelo or a different person almost, but Canelo's 168 undisputed run came after he had already fought Golovkin, after he had already knocked out Kirkland, who was a boogeyman coming up, after he had already defeated Cotto, after he had already defeated Trout, after he had already fought Mayweather. I mean, and that's one of the best runs in boxing. That's a run you could put up there with Inoue or Crawford's all-time career runs, or Lomachenko. Any of these guys, you can put their all-time career runs just against Canelo's middleweight undisputed run. Super middleweight, sorry. To say he's scared of David Benavidez, a kid who just hasn't really been there yet, fought Caleb Plant to a decision when Canelo stopped
Caleb
him.
Plant, though. I mean, if Caleb Plant doesn't stop running around the ring, hugging him, he stops Caleb Plant. I know he stops Caleb Plant. And if he's not scared, then what's the holdup?
I'll tell you right now, the holdup is that Saudi paycheck. Canelo is the face of boxing, undisputed. This man just did the highest number views in Latin America in sports history, I'm pretty sure, from this last Munguia-Canelo fight. That's a huge market. And he's not getting any bites of this Saudi Arabia payday. Yeah, but he wants $100 million. He wants that Saudi heavyweight payday money. He is the face of boxing. And you know what? If boxing is going to be in Saudi Arabia, they owe it to bring him over and make that Benavidez fight for Canelo, who's earned that fight and that payday, and for the fans, who that's the biggest fight you can make. That's bigger. Benavidez Canelo is bigger than Bivol Beterbiev.
Sure, it is, but then it's sad to say that the guy who's pound for pound number one in boxing right now has now gone away from what we saw his whole career of, I want to make the best fights happen. And let me remind you that when he makes these fights happen, he's still making $35 million for a fight. That's some money that most of us are never going to see. So let me remind you that he's making that much money, and now we're talking about he's not going to make the big fight, the best fight of his career. Dude, make the Benavidez fight. Fight Benavidez here in the States for probably $45+ million, and then go fight Jake Paul for $100 million in Saudi. Go fight Kamaru Usman for $100 million. Just make the Benavidez fight now, where you're still going to make, almost $50 million. Most, I wouldn't be surprised if he touches $50 million for that fight. I mean, there's something to be said about that, Look at Mayweather and McGregor. Mayweather walked away from that fight with $150 million. So I hate the excuse of he wants the Riyadh season paycheck. I hate that. It's really sad to think then that our number one pound for pound guy, arguably, right, because he got Inoue and Crawford, but arguably number one pound for pound, definitely top 5 pound for pound, has now gone away from what he did his whole life of fighting the top guys regardless of money to now he wants a paycheck. That's not it. I think maybe he does want the paycheck because he knows that this is going to be the fight that he loses to a guy at 168.
Man, you're crazy, and I'll say you are right. He shouldn't hold out for the paycheck. It shouldn't be about the paycheck. But if you're going to criticize Canelo, a guy who fights consistently for two times a year, against a guy like Tank, who's 14 months without a fight, against a guy like Fury, who doesn't take fights every year. I mean, these guys are getting those huge paydays that Canelo's asking for, at least Fury, and maybe not Tank. But you see what I'm saying? These guys are also being considered top 10 pound-for-pound guys, and they're not nearly as active, not nearly as decorated as Canelo, not nearly as old as Canelo. and taking it easier. So I think what you're saying is right, but I think there needs to be more pressure on the other fighters before you put that pressure on
You're talking about Tank Davis, though. Tank Davis made the fight that we wanted to see. If Canelo makes a Benavidez fight, he can go away from boxing for 2 years and hold out for whatever paycheck he wants. Make the Benavidez fight.
You're forgetting the 3 Golovkin fights Canelo
We
made.
want the Benavidez. Congrats, you made those fights. Guess what? Devin Haney made all the fights. Devin Haney made the fight against George Kambosos. Unfortunately, George Kambosos was maybe coming off a lucky victory off of Teo. But Devin Haney made that fight. And then Devin Haney made the Prograis fight. And then Devin Haney made the Ryan fight. So don't give me the excuse of, well, he made the Triple G fights. Well, make the Benavidez fight then. It shouldn't be hard.
All right. Well, before we move on to the heavyweights, let's stick to one more possible opponent for Benavidez, and that's the winner of the upcoming undisputed showdown between Bivol and Beterbiev, or loser, honestly. Do you see Benavidez fighting either one, or do you have a preference for which one he fights?
I think Benavidez, first of all, is going to look good at 175. I like the jump for him. I think Beterbiev may take his head off. So I like the Bivol fight. I think the Bivol fight is fun, especially if the Canelo fight is not next. It's unfortunate because now we know that Bivol and Beterbiev isn't going to take place probably until towards the end of the year now, which is unfortunate. But if that Canelo fight is not next in September or in May of 2025, then I like the Bivol fight because then it adds another name. If he beats Bivol, which I think he does beat Bivol, it adds a name that Canelo has to look at. But I like to jump for Benavidez. I really like what he said in terms of he's now going up. He can't wait at 168 anymore. He's been there for too long, so he's got to go make his own legacy. And 75 is the place to do that with Bivol and Beterbiev up there. You have, 2 huge names up there who are set to fight still towards the end of the year. I believe they used the word postponed, not canceled, which is good. Obviously, that fight's still going to happen. So I like it for Benavidez. But it will be interesting to see what Benavidez looks like here soon at 175. But I do like the jump for him. I think he'll look good.
I agree with you. I think that jump is good for him. I think he fills out nicely at 175, and I'm excited to see him debut up there. Let's go ahead and move on to our heavyweight championship fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. We are now just going to be about 1 week away from this fight. First undisputed championship fight in this division since Lennox Lewis was undisputed champ in 2000. So we're 24 years out from an undisputed champion. And let's just jump into our thoughts on this fight. I honestly think Fury is lazy. He's old. He got dropped by Ngannou. He's unmotivated from reports within his camp. And Usyk is the complete opposite. He's focused. He's driven. He's literally fresh from the Ukraine war. I mean, he's seen it all. And I think he's ready to define his legacy. I also think Fury's style is mostly kind of overwhelming his opponents, bullying them. We saw that be really effective against Wilder. And I just don't think Usyk will let that happen. I think Usyk's more of a active fighter who's going to be a real nightmare for Fury, especially an unprepared Fury. We might see a little bit of moments from Fury landing a big shot or two, or maybe getting that smothering on Usyk, making it look like Usyk's in trouble for a second. But I really think this is going to be just a decision victory for Usyk. Greedy Belly's done, I think, unfortunately. And I love Tyson Fury. I wish he would take it seriously. He's got all the talent in the world. But styles make fights, and there's levels to this game, and Usyk is there right now. What do you think?
We just heard of a guy who wasn't taking the fight seriously, who looked really good in a fight, down at 140. So I don't like that. I don't like the he's not ready. I think it's the opposite. I think Tyson Fury's heard the critic. He's heard the critics. He's heard the excuse coming out of the camp. I think Tyson Fury's going to come in prepared. I think Usyk is not going to be prepared for what Tyson Fury has. And I think ultimately this fight's going to go to Tyson Fury in a 10th round stoppage. I think that he's going to hit Usyk he's going to hit Usyk harder than he's been hit. Sure, you can say the knockdown by Ngannou, but Anthony Joshua's lucky that he got to Ngannou earlier. He would have gotten dropped by Ngannou. Ngannou, you're talking about a guy with insane power. So it's another heavyweight. So yeah, he got dropped. I don't hate it though. I think that Fury took that fight lightly. I won't lie. And I think Ngannou took it super seriously. But Fury's gonna take this fight seriously, and he's gonna stop Usyk. And I'm extremely excited for it because it's like you said, 24 years. I've never seen it in my lifetime. You're going to have an undisputed heavyweight champion. So that alone is awesome. But that undisputed heavyweight champion is going to get the stoppage in the 10th round. It's going to be Tyson Fury. And I don't see anything else happening.
You're absolutely crazy. Usyk is on fire. That man is pound for pound great. He's going to take out Fury. And I'll tell you something. You brought up Joshua, who is my current favorite heavyweight out there. I think Joshua showed a lot of heart against Ngannou. I think he showed a lot of heart against Otto Wallin. I think he's on the comeback tour. I think he wants Fury to win so he can fight Fury. And I think Joshua has a great chance at beating Fury. But Usyk schooled Joshua so well twice that I cannot take that away from the man. That man stopped who I think is arguably the most improved and best heavyweight of our generation in Anthony Joshua. And Usyk just stopped him in his tracks. Didn't get the stoppage, didn't get the TKO or KO, but I mean, he looked like a deer in headlights for that first fight. Improved a little bit in the second fight, caught up with Usyk a little more, but still wasn't enough to look even enough to be in control of those rounds at all. So I just think that Usyk's ability in that ring is it's like a dance, like a paintbrush. Like he knows exactly what the canvas is, and he's going to be moving around it exactly where he needs to be. And Fury's going to try and overwhelm him with that size, but Usyk's going to be able to slip in and out of those positions just enough to get those decisions, to get those point victories, to get that round by round victory.
Usyk is lucky that he fought a not all there Joshua. I think in both those fights, Joshua was not all the way there. And Joshua's there now, and you're right. I think Joshua actually beats both of these guys right now, the way he's looked in his past two fights, even though one of them was against a UFC guy, a PFL guy, whatever, MMA. But Usyk is not... I don't think Usyk is prepared for the power that Tyson Fury brings. I think that there is a chance that we're going into the 10th round, 11th round even maybe, and saying, oh, wow, Usyk's winning this fight. But Usyk's going to get caught with something big, and he's going to go down, and he's not going to get up. And that's truly what I think is going to happen in this fight. I think you're crazy. I think you're maybe on Usyk's nuts a little bit because I just don't understand how you discredit what Tyson Fury has done.
Look, Tyson Fury's great, but he has an inconsistency in the ring. He's on and off. He looked bad against Wallin, looked bad against Ngannou. Like I said, it's just inconsistency is what it is with Fury. He's only getting older. You're getting all these weird reports, and that's what makes me question it. And Usyk just looks like he's on top of the world right now after two great runs in two different divisions. So
I think that you're right. Usyk does look great, but Usyk hasn't ran into Tyson Fury yet. He's the man at heavyweight, and I think when he runs into Tyson Fury, he's gonna be the one wishing that he was still at cruiserweight or wishing that he was still fighting in Anthony Joshua. And yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it. And I know that we've argued about this a lot over the past, months maybe. I see a world where Tyson Fury gets his hand raised at the end of the day. And I really do think it's going to be a stoppage.
all right, Shots. Well, that's going to bring it to the end of our discussion on the heavyweights and the end of our podcast for today. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Shots, anything to add?
No. All I can say is I also got George Kambosos Jr. winning this weekend over Vasily Lomachenko. Now, that's one that I may not even believe myself, but
You're
that's
crazy.
all I got.
That's insane. This will be out probably after that, so they'll already know the results. But I'm taking Loma by second round stoppage. No, I'm just kidding. He's probably gonna stop him late in the fight, but I think Loma's still got a little bit of gas in the tank and enough to beat Kambosos. So, but we may be eating our words. Let's see who eats their words when I post it. I'll put an edit in or something. But thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate you guys, and we'll be back in the next episode with some results from the heavyweight showdown.